All right. Well, should we get this going? Here we go. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me, you know her as former U.S. women's national team goalkeeper with the U.S. soccer hat going on, 99 World Cup winner, UCLA goalkeeper coach, Angels co-owner. A lot going on right there, Stosk. A lot going on right there. Oh man, it's a lot of multiple branding going on in one situation.
I know, I'm a nightmare right now. And like my agent's probably going, take it all off. Take it off.
I was like, all of a sudden, I was like, wow. I was like, I never realized how much Saskia was just like a NASCAR driver. You know, she's just.
Oh my god, totally. Bring it on. Like I can do like Valvoline and like stuff like that. Like I wear it like on my arm. Goodyear tires, do it.
Oh man. Well, speaking of somebody who's representing nothing right now because he's very right now neutral. He's keeping it neutral right now for this educational platform. Orlando Pride goalkeeper coach Lloyd Yaxley. Yax, always great to have you back, man.
What's going on, guys? I'm like tried to find the quietest corner in my house while everyone gets back from the school run. So I'm literally in the corner of my bedroom. With the beige wall behind me. Happy days.
I need to do that.
Well, Saskia, you've got only plaques and trophies and everything like that, you know, right behind you, right there. You know,
those aren't mine, actually.
Oh, those aren't.
Yeah, those aren't mine. Although they're pretty cool. They're FBI and CIA plaques and trophies from Shannon's dad. So that's cool. Yeah.
Wow. Cool. Jeez, man, you got a museum going on back there.
It's the little trophy corner. It's right. It's the one little trophy corner. It's a big house.
Oh man. Well, Lloyd. Obviously, a lot's happened since we had you last on the show. I think we had you. I think it was right during the NWSL season last year after the Challenge Cup. Obviously, last year was a challenging, no pun intended, season for Orlando. Yeah. But things are a lot different this year. It seems like you guys are in a solid position to try to make a playoff push.
Yeah, I mean we're right in the middle of it at the moment, which is, I guess, where we want to be as a minimal requirement. Like we want to make the playoffs as a minimal thing. So it was tough last year. Like you see teams going through exactly what we went through last year. Like the Spirit have had some positive cases of COVID, and they're having to forfeit games. And I think, like all in all, like once we started this year, like probably that, going through that as a team, probably I think has brought the team really close together. So the team they bond off the field just as much as they do on the field, which I think has allowed us to make a push this year.
You know, I mean, it's really interesting that you said that because, you know, obviously, Saskia, you know, you all had a very unique situation. And Lloyd and I, we were even talking about it off the air in regards to, you know, younger professionals who had just finished a college season or had been drafted and then still had to continue their college season before coming to the pro level. Where you had this split season. You've had this split season where you had a winter/spring, you know, 2020 season, and then right immediately jumping into a 2021. And obviously the challenges that's been for you all on the collegiate end.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. Sorry, I did. I liked getting back into the regular rhythm and flow of things. You know, the girls had about 2 months off. And they took it, trust me, like not took it physically, but took it mentally. You know, nobody really wanted to coach camp. And I don't blame them, because last fall into winter and then spring was the longest season ever. And so, they've come back hungry and ready to go. And it's nice to just get back on track. The spring was weird. I mean, you have Santa Clara winning a national championship. They only played 7 regular season games. So kudos to them for that. We got 15 games in and stuff. So we try to do our due diligence. But I think that now everybody's back more or less on a regular schedule, minus a couple games. We're not really traveling to the East Coast or anything like that. So it's going to be good. It's nice to get back at it.
Lloyd, is it difficult? Is it difficult for you all in the professional level when things are, for lack of a better term, running differently on the college side in regards to from a scouting and identification standpoint and all that?
Yeah, I mean, last year the league, not to throw the NWSL under the bus at all, but right before the college draft, so in previous years players would have to enter, and then that kind of gave us a list that we could narrow our scouting down to, or narrow who we reach out to, either coaches or that individual player. But this year it was hey, if they've done their 4 years, they're eligible, unless they want to enter early, like a Rodman, for instance. So our scouting pool went from anywhere from 300 players to I have no idea how many it was this year, but it definitely involved pulling the phone book out a bit and calling coaches and saying, do you think this player wants to play a 5th year? Do you think they want to enter the league? What are their, and then if they do want to enter league, what is their skill set? Are they going to play? Are they going to be joining the NWSL in February? Are they going to be joining the NWSL in June? And I think every team in the league had different ways that they went about it. Some teams wanted to draft players that were coming in February, and if they weren't, they didn't want to do with them. And then I think the way that we went about it is we just took who we felt would be the best fit for us long term. So hence why we drafted Michaela Colohan at BYU, who's still playing her college season now. Julie Doyle from Santa Clara, we knew that she was going to stay for a 5th year. She's actually in England at the moment doing a break with her boyfriend who's on doing studying abroad. And then Kaylee Collins we knew was going to come in April, June. I forget when it was that she came in. So there was a lot of different reasons behind picking those players, but we went for who we think is the most talented for the future for us.
Yeah, and even for us, it was strange as well, because we look into recruiting and how it affected recruiting. Players that wouldn't have stayed can stay another year. So that affects recruiting. I have high school players that have decided to do post-grads in high school because everything being pushed, where they might have come in and, played their freshman year or not played, but now if they push it now, because the person that they would have come and replaced has another year, it's a little nuts. It's a little hard to navigate. Thank God I'm not Sam. I just get to hear all this, but even with us, we have 2 grads playing right now. That'll probably enter the next draft that didn't want to enter this draft. We had players that we had several players that were playing, Delaney, Lucy, that were playing that, were already drafted. So for this spring. So it was interesting. The whole, even on the college side, it's been interesting.
I mean, I was going to ask, before we kind of move into this topic and kind of get back onto the goalkeeping centric side, obviously Kaylee Collins, came in after she'd been drafted, after she had her season. Was that more difficult, Lloyd, for a young rookie to be coming into that environment that has already been kind of in the swing of things, rather than coming into a traditional training camp?
Yeah, I'm certain it was. I mean, normally you bring in a younger goalkeeper and they're hitting preseason the same time as all the other goalkeepers or the rest of the players. But with Kaylee, for instance, she came in, and Britt, Ash, and Erin and then we had another girl, Gabby English, who was in training with us as well, who's at Hibs now playing in Scotland. So they'd had, I don't know, 3-4 months of being in the environment, understanding me and what I'm about, and the team methodology or whatever you want. So we tried to keep Kaylee involved as much as we could while she was still at college. Like, obviously I'd watch her games and give her feedback, and spoke to Ian Foyer, her goalkeeper coach at USC, and we kept in regular touch throughout that period. What you're working on in training, where's she deficient, what's going to be the biggest, obstacle for her when she comes into our environment. So, I'm sure it was difficult. Like, one thing, you're a leader in a team, and you're a senior, and you're the person that's teaching people, and then you get into our environment and you've got Ash and Erin, and that's just the goalkeepers that are kind of steering you in a different light and giving you different ideas. And obviously there's things that I wanted to change about Kaylee's game that was a learning curve as well, and will continue to be a learning curve. So I think it definitely was harder for her, but she's we're really, really happy with how she's been doing. Really happy.
Yeah. Well, I know that Saskia's happy that she's no longer in the Pac-12. So I think that's well, let's move into this topic here, guys, because this is a great topic, and shout out to Erin McLeod for giving this topic suggestion. I think it's absolutely phenomenal, and of course, a veteran like herself would have a topic like this. Today's topic, guys, is functional coaching, which I think is immense. Lloyd, we hear the term functional training a lot of the times. We don't hear functional coaching. What's kind of the difference between kind of functional coaching and functional training?
I mean, the way that I guess I would put it is, a functional training session is obviously something that has multiple decisions, multiple techniques that will happen within that session. But I think in order to be an effective coach within those type of sessions, you need to understand that, I don't know, like, if whatever your outcome is from that session, you need to be able to see it within that session. And sometimes that might just be, reading of the situation to which technique I put into play within that scenario. So I think that's the way I would pinpoint it. It's understanding the pictures, understanding how that individual goalkeeper can best affect that picture, because I think it'll be different for each goalkeeper with their different skill sets and different things that they're strong at. So I think that's how I guess I look at it. It's funny you saying that Erin gave the topic. She sent this epic voice message that she does. I was expecting like a one sentence response of, oh, let's talk about, collecting crosses, or let's talk about set position. And it was this epic 2-minute voice message of all these different ideas that she thinks that I'm good at. So yeah, this was the topic that it came to. But I think that's pretty much it. Like, can you find the pictures within your sessions that will help that goalkeeper see that picture when it's in a game?
I mean, I think that's such a great point right there. Saskia, I think this is something that Lloyd just brought up right now, which I think is so important, is that a lot of young coaches out there, they understand how to design a functional training session, but yet when they orchestrate that session, they don't know how to recognize the cues, the triggers in the scenarios. So they're only kind of doing half of the job right there. Like, yes, it's a great environment for the goalkeeper. However, if they can't convey this information and point out these coaching moments, it's going to be a disservice to the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just a training session, it's a teaching session. And it's your chance to break things down in this functional session. And hopefully, incorporating not just the goalkeepers. Like, usually when we do functional training, it's with the forwards and the goalkeepers. And so it's, but this is something where Sam and I will get together, and because she'll run the forwards, and we'll make sure we're on the same page with everything we're trying to teach both the goalkeepers and the attackers, period. Like, what's her goal for the attackers in this, and what's my goal for the goalkeepers, and how do we manipulate and fuse both of them? And so it's not just like, hey, Saskia, you've got the goalkeepers, we're doing functional training, and I've got the forwards, and we're going to do this. No, this is all like calculated, and we'll stop the training multiple times. And whether it's my coaching for the keepers and into like I will coach the forwards as well. I'll coach the strikers and tell them what they should be looking for, the mistakes that the keepers are making to be more effective, and vice versa. So it's not just setting up a functional positional training session. It's your chance to really break things down.
I love what you just said right there. And by the way, Lloyd, feel free to step in anytime you got something you want to say. But like, I love, Saskia, what you just said about, coaching the forwards. And, Lloyd, you pride yourself, obviously you're very involved in the Orlando Pride, not just as a quote unquote goalkeeper coach, but as an assistant coach with a specialization in goalkeeping. And how important is that if you really want to be functional, if you really want to be effective at a session, that you are involved in that team dynamic when you're running your sessions?
Yeah, I think it depends on the coach that you're working with, because some coaches might give you more responsibility as far as, hey, like, here's 12 players, go run a session on defending crosses. And then other coaches might be running the session, but can you get little snippets of information in there with the rest of the team, like whether it's, hey, you got to make sure you check your shoulder, this cross is about to come in, or like, can we step our line higher, or whatever that looks like. But then it also, like, one thing that I end up doing a lot with the Pride is, like, at the end of sessions, if players want to top up with finishing or whatever, then they'll come to me and I'll rustle out a finishing drill, and that'll be my way of impacting the forwards a bit more, whilst also giving Kaylee and Britt a peace of mind about whatever scenario I'm doing with the forwards. So
yeah,
it can be anything from a big segment of time where we're doing an 11 versus 8 or something in a 3/4 field or something like that. Can I get little words of advice in there, or is it's my session and I'm gonna get my pointers across that way? But I think it's similar to what Saskia said, where you might use, hey, this is a goalkeeper's habit. Like, this is, if you get into this scenario and you do this, we hate it when that happens. It's
absolutely.
like, you will score goals when you do this. Or, we're prepping for a team at the weekend, and I'm like, well, this is that goalkeeper's habit. If you can do this or make that run, they're going to struggle with this picture. Yeah. So it's using your knowledge of goalkeeping and putting that into sessions with the field players so that your team scores goals or defends goals.
And it's kind of like what we talked about the other week. It was like, I will tell them, like, if we're driving end line for the forwards, like, if they take another touch towards goal, now you're dictating the keeper's position. Where you'll see a lot of, if you serve that slotted ball too early, the keeper just makes a micro adjustment and they're still in position to deal with any shot from the 6 or the top of the, not the 6, but like the penalty spot or wherever that's been slotted in. But if I take another touch as a forward and I drive a little bit near a post and I force that keeper to go in a 3-goal situation, now if I slot the ball, it's a scramble for the goalkeeper. So, and like, explaining that to forwards from a goalkeeper's perspective is invaluable. It is, because now they look at it totally differently.
No, absolutely. And I think this really comes into play, Lloyd, when we're talking about functionality, because what we're really talking about is being effective at the session, and utilizing the goalkeeper coach to the best of their ability at training. And again, I think this is a problem a lot of times with young coaches out there. How many times have you seen, Lloyd, younger goalkeeper coaches sitting around at a training session going, I don't know what I do. What do I do? Do I just sit here? Do I just go get water? Do I go on my phone?
I warm them up. They're in goal, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
But I do think there's like a bit of balance when it comes to that, because I think in order for me to go up to Ali Krieger, there needs to be that level of trust there, that she trusts what the advice that I'm giving. And if I don't want to go up to her and just coach her because I feel like it's the right moment to coach her. Like there needs to be that level of trust. And Kriegs is a good example because we've been at the same team my whole NWSL career. So there is trust there. And I think as a younger coach, it's getting trust from the head coach that you know your stuff and that you understand what that head coach is looking for in certain aspects of the game. And then the other part, do you hear my kid in the background?
I love it. I love it.
We do.
What you don't see is my other hand. I've got like a taser ready to tase him
Daddy!
away. Yeah. So
no,
well, this is how you get
but
two guests on a show at one time.
But I agree with you on that because Lloyd, there's times like let's say we're doing 11v11 or they're doing choreography, they're doing certain things. There are certain times, Mike, I don't say anything. Like I'll let the flow go. I might go stand behind Lauren's goal or Hannah or whoever and discuss what we need to discuss in the flow of what we're doing in 11v11 and everything. But there are times that I'm not telling Sunshine what to do. I'm not telling certain people what to do. Like Mia and stuff like that. I'm just like, no, let Amanda and them run this drill. I'll focus on what the goalkeepers need to do, and I just talk to them. I think it's more within functional training when we are doing forwards and goalkeepers, and we have already collaborated on what's going on. That's where you build, I think, as a young goalkeeper, that is actually where you build that trust and that connection with the attackers and with other players other than goalkeepers, so that in the run of play or in something, you actually can go up and say something to them. Because now I find that in a game, like there's certain players that I can go up to and be like, Sunshine, listen, she is just so off her line, hit a banger, like look up, don't just always play the through ball into Mia or Raylan. Go ahead. You have the leg, you have the touch. And I can say that to her because we have that relationship and we've built that relationship. So
it's interesting that exact scenario happened with us away to Kansas. We were playing, Abby Smith was playing in goal at the time. And I said we bought Taylor Korniak and Marta on at halftime. And it was
that
like,
sucks. That's a rough one.
It's a tough change right there. Decent duo to bring on. But I was like, look, she's high off her line. She's really high off her line. So if you watch the highlight, if you watch the game back, like Taylor tried to lob her from early on, Marta tried, and then she actually got her with her goal in that game. But again, it's that trust that I know the goalkeepers that we're playing against. I know how a goalkeeper will think in certain scenarios, and it's how can we. It's almost the flip side to when you're coaching your goalkeepers. It's like, well,
absolutely.
When you're coaching your goalkeepers, it's like, all right, this is the scenario. This is what the striker can see. This is their options. So which, do I defend the goal? Do I defend the space? Can you get scored? And, all of those things. But with the forwards, it's like, all right, well, they're going to be here. You might catch them cheating. So you can do this option.
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of funny because I'll do the same thing before a game. We'll look at the other goalkeepers or study their warm-ups and stuff. And then like certain time into the game or when we've done video and everything, I'll let the forwards know, whether she's like really suspect with her feet, whether, if you press, like if she's too far near post, just, when the ball's too wide, like stuff. Yeah. It's the opposite.
Lloyd, I got a question. I got a question for you because, obviously when we're talking about, functional coaching, a lot of it has to do with how you convey the information, and we when we had Tom Wheel on from Norwich a while back, and we talked about coaching behaviors, it made me think about being functional within a session, being effective within a session. You can give the same message in a certain tone or in a certain way or in certain language, and it's less effective or more effective.
Yeah. I mean, like Ash, there's no point in me calling her out on stuff within a training environment because she doesn't respond well to that. Like the best thing for me to do is like, let's go over that with video, or let's talk about it on the phone later tonight. And we'll break it down with the video there to almost either prove my point or disprove my point or show the picture that she's seeing. Because sometimes I think in the moment as a coach, it's very easy that you're like, oh, that's what I was looking for. And you think something's happened, but you're not really getting it from the goalkeeper's viewpoint. You're getting it from your viewpoint at that moment. So I think sometimes it's, okay, we'll look back at that moment because I can't really recreate the perfect picture in my head. But then like sometimes you do see the picture great and it's like, well, what I think the thing with functional training and functional coaching is understanding the decision behind whatever they've done. So I think a lot of the time I'll always be like, well, what did you see? Because then that'll be my stepping stone to my next question is like, well, why? Like, why did you come out? If you saw that close touch, why did you make up ground? Because they're in control of the situation, for example. So I think it's understanding their thought pattern into the execution of whatever they're trying to do. And then sometimes it's just saying, well, I don't really understand why you took that thought process. This would have been a better way to get a better outcome. And sometimes that's in the moment. Sometimes that's video after training. And sometimes I think what younger coaches get in the habit of doing is feeling like they have to coach every mistake. Mm-hmm. They have to coach every breakdown. But like sometimes the goalkeeper needs to work their way through that messy situation in order to get better, because you can coach the technique, but coaching the process that goes into the thinking and the execution of that technique, I think is something that is more intrinsic within that person than it is extrinsic.
No, and I agree that like imagine being like a joysticker as a goalkeeper coach. Like it would be a nightmare. It's already a nightmare as a field player coach, and to have to hear it. You know, let your team. This is why you train. Let your team figure it out. Trust your players. Let them figure out and if they keep making the same mistake, then adjust it. And I'm the same way with the goalkeepers. Like Lauren knows she just shanked the ball. I don't need to get up and yell at her. Like I just look at her and she'll look over at me and I'll just be like, calm down. Like take your time. She's aware of it. And I'm not the kind of person that I don't need to coach every moment, everything. I've given you the tools. You have the tools. Figure it out. Make the adjustment.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it at halftime. Not every goalkeeper responds. Some goalkeepers need you to yell at them. They're with the wrong goalkeeper coach then. Sorry. Sorry. It's true. They are.
But I think with that point, like relating it to like youth level goalkeeper coaches is, you go to the fields at the weekend and it's a U13, U14 game and that big ball goes over the top. And you have the coach on the halfway, like on the sideline screaming, keeper, come and get it, keeper. Yeah, but that's not allowed that goalkeeper to make a decision because the 40-year-old fat guy on the sidelines made the decision. Like,
oh
so
my God. Absolutely.
It's like let them fail in that moment, because then that's a coachable moment, rather than you getting annoyed as a coach that they've not made a successful decision. That's a great moment to coach after the game. That's a great moment to coach in training next week and say, all right, this is a scenario that we kept failing at. Like, so let's repaint those pictures. And I think that's an error that younger coaches in the youth game come across a lot, or coaches that aren't goalkeeper coaches, because they don't want the team to concede a goal. Whereas I'm like, they're 12, concede the goal, learn from it. Think of the bigger picture. So yeah, I think that's a really good point about joysticking and making decisions for the goalkeepers. Like let them fail, let them make decisions, let them grow from that failure or from that success.
And something to remind the coaches out there of, by the time you tell the goalkeeper what to do, it's too late. Yeah. Okay. Bottom line. Right? The split second is gone, whether you're calling keeper and they were supposed to come. So now you're yelling keeper. Now the kid's like, oh shit, I should have gone. So now the kid goes and now they're too late going. And so now they're getting beat anyway. All right. Exactly. So by the time you give them that instruction, it is too late. Mm-hmm. So just keep that in mind.
I love what you two have been saying right here, because it's making me think about the fact that how many young coaches out there think that getting the goalkeeper to make a successful action is functional coaching, but in reality, it's teaching the goalkeeper how to identify how to make a successful action on their own is functional coaching. And sometimes you have to let goalkeepers fail intentionally. You don't step in intentionally and allow them to fail is going to be more productive in the long run for all of them.
For sure.
Yeah.
I want to pull up some of these sessions right here because I always learn from watching Lloyd's sessions here. So, Lloyd, I want to pull up this this first session here that you've got that you sent us right here. So let's see if everybody can see this right here. So why don't you kind of walk us through kind of this progression and what's going on right here? First off, I see a lot of goals, which is awesome.
Yeah, so I think one of the topics that we wanted to discuss is the difference between older goalkeepers, younger goalkeepers, managing those different things. So this is pretty much activation seems to be the cool word at the moment, but like an activation circuit that we're doing. This is later in the circuit. So you got Zach, who's one of my assistants, who does an amazing job serving Kaylee, who's working on the block save. I'm working. You'll see me celebrate in a minute because I get Britt to go with the wrong leg. So you got me working on more of a split save technique. There it is, wrong leg, got her. Yeah. And then Erin would be stretching, but she's obviously happy with how her body feels, so she's just kind of relaxing in that moment. So it's just like I've snuck in a bit of handling, bit of stretching, some split technical work, some split blocking work, and allowed them to get in the right frame of mind to be exposed to some split saves, block saves, decisions within the session.
Go ahead, Tess. Were you about to say something?
No, I'm just watching.
Okay. I was going to say one thing. First off, I've never seen this type of activation before. I love the fact that you have different goalkeepers, because when we talk about being functional, it's about what's each goalkeeper's individual needs. What do they need in that moment? And you obviously here recognized in an activation phase, certain goalkeepers needed different things in that time. And so you set up an activation that worked for everybody. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've never seen anything like this before. And again, like I said, I always learn when I watch Lloyd's stuff here.
But we'll do stuff like this a lot, where there'll be like a stretching component or a recovery component, which is like
play. I want to see this one.
Do what you need to do. So I think the reason that I wanted to include this clip is you'll see a big difference between this clip and the next clip. So, like, I don't know if you can play that again, Mike. Like,
sure, yeah.
So actually, no, sorry. Go to the next clip, because then you can see the difference. You'll see the difference between the two pictures. So, in this first clip, it was just a little too frantic for me. So what I did is I've brought the goals closer together and increased the distance of the pass to allow the goalkeepers to be uncomfortable and be late, but be in control. And I don't think they were in the first part of the session. And I think for younger coaches, like, sometimes, I don't know if ego is the right word, or pride is probably a better word. You're too proud to like go, well, my distances were wrong, or it wasn't working for me. So for me, and that's probably, I probably did 2 rounds with the goals a little further apart and the distance close, and it was just too frantic and it was chaotic, and it wasn't going to get the pictures what I did. So we've moved Britt back with the poles on the left there, and we've moved the goals closer together. So the pass is a bigger pass. The movement is the same distance. Actually, probably a shorter distance, but we should be able to get more pictures of what we want. So essentially, we'll start with a handling component, which is Zach striking this ball into Britt on the half turn. And then the 2 of them are passing, and the 2 goalkeepers in the middle have to protect the goal. So the idea there is can they make up distance? If they can't, do they stand and protect that goal? We'll get block saves in there. We'll get split saves in there. And then we'll also get, I think, a component of this that often gets forgotten about is just standing tall and reacting, depending on the distance. So again, going to tie in the older and younger goalkeeper thing. After we did this for about 25 minutes, Erin and Britt went over and did a rondo possession drill with the rest of the team, which allowed me to take Kaylee and home in a little more on the technique of a split save with her, because it's something that's new for her, and it's something that we're trying to build into her game. Like, I'm really lucky that Ash is one of the best in the world at that technique. Britt is very comfortable getting in a split save, almost too comfortable, and defaults to it too much, which is where I want to that session that you just showed is great for her, because there's times where the splits is the wrong decision, and I can coach that. And then Erin is more of a stand-up goalkeeper, but we've got the splits in her. She can do that successfully now, and the block save, she can do that really successfully. So it's a good it was a good moment for me to send Erin and Britt over to be with the rest of the team to work with their feet, and take Kaylee to the side and work on the final phase of the split save, and then go into a more of a decision, and you'll see that in the future clips.
I want to bring this up right now, with Saskia right here, because I think that one of the problems is with a lot of, and I'm not even going to say younger goalkeeper coaches. I'm going to say with a lot of goalkeeper coaches is in general, is that they freak out when a session isn't functioning and they scrap it, rather than like what you did right there is you're like, okay, how can I make this functional? I already have this design and I know what my coaching points are, and I know the reason, the why of why I'm doing it. How do I make it effective in this moment? And we saw right there, Saskia, how Lloyd was able to, with just some slight adjustments, be able to make it functional.
Yeah, I mean, we're not perfect, and in your mind, you set things up and you think this is going to be functional and it's going to work properly. And then you don't scrap it, or you don't keep beating a dead horse. You don't try to make it work. You're not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Yeah. Adapt it. Like, so Lloyd adapted it. He brought the goals in closer. He backed it up a little bit, and now it's functional. And you have to have the humility to say, you know what, this isn't working right. Let me tweak this a little bit, because in hindsight, it's a great drill. So make it work. And so for those young coaches out there, it's not, I have to get this right the first time, they won't respect me. Get out of your head and know that you can make the adjustments. I also like what you said about like the different styles of the goalkeepers. And I think for young goalkeeper coaches out there, we have to realize that, like Ashlyn, like, yes, the greatest at the split save. Absolutely. The timing of it and everything. How many goalkeepers do I know, or do I have that time it totally wrong, use it at the wrong time and everything like that? So, but there are times not to as well. And so we have to be versatile as coaches and understand, okay, well, this isn't the new fad. So this is what we do all the time. And this is how you handle, a breakaway or in close shot or something. You do a split save. A good example would be like, had Lauren done a split save against Santa Clara the other night, she would have gotten scored up. And I believe that she was the attacker was looking for her to go down and do a split save, and Lauren didn't. She stood her up. So they took another touch wide, and Lauren had ended up made an old style save, if you want to say. She stood her up, and then she did a 50-50 smother, and it was awesome. I think that had she done a split save, wrong decision. So, as a young coach out there, you have to do your homework, and you have to understand when this is right, when this isn't right, when standing somebody up is right, when it isn't right. Distances between if you're too close to somebody, if you're too far to somebody. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this. It's not just one size fits all.
Yeah. And to add on to that real quick before we kind of move on to this next clip right here from this, but is Lloyd, is that, Saskia, I love what you said right there in regards to, are they gonna trust me? Are they gonna think that I know what I'm doing? That type of thing. Because I know as a young coach, not only would I be worried about whether the goalkeepers think are going to trust me and believe in what I'm doing, but I'm also concerned about what the technical director of the club is thinking as they're walking by. And if they see a bunch of kids scrambling on the floor, confused, or, with their hands in their pockets because they don't know what's going on, I'm freaking out that they're going to think that I don't know what I'm doing and I'm going to have to look for another job. So we really have, this is getting on the sports psych side, but we really need to, this is why it's so important to not only be able to design and take your time to session design prior, but also understand if things break down, how am I going to adjust this and have that prepared beforehand.
But I think just to piggyback on that a little bit, like there will be times where I'll have a conversation with the goalkeepers and just be like they'll understand the picture that I'm trying to paint, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm not getting that picture. Like, what can we do different? Is the distance too big? Is the pass too big? Is it too short? It is, whatever. Because they've been in thousands of sessions, like thousands and thousands of goalkeeping sessions. So they might have a great idea how to manipulate what we're trying to get out of it. So I think it's, again, having that humility to just say, like, what can we do? Like, what like, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about moving this, which will then get this picture. But they might go, well, actually, what if we did this? So it's making it a collaboration. Like, I try and use that word a lot with my coaching. It's like not all about, it's not my session. It's not, right, oh, this is amazing. This is, oh, look what I did. This is a 4 or 5, like Zach, who helps me out, has a lot of input as well. Like,
absolutely.
And it's being able to like bounce ideas and knock heads and figure out how to get those outcomes that you really want.
Yeah. So let's move on here to this next progression right here, Lloyd. So why don't you kind of walk us through what's going on now?
Yeah. So like I said, this is me and Zach working with Kaylee while the other 2 are in with the rest of the team. So each of the goalkeepers have individual development plans, and one of Kaylee's is to get better in these scenarios. She defaults. She's almost the opposite to Britt. Britt defaults to a split save 90% of the time. Kaylee defaults to hands leading 90% of the time. So it's finding that balance and that recognition of when to use which technique. So this is really, if the very first clip is us breaking down the final. So not this clip, the clip before is us breaking down the final phase. If you made the decision, you got your distance right. So this part, because I've got Zach closer, I've almost taken the decision away, because you're close enough to affect with a split save, in my opinion. Now, when Zach moves further away and I'm passing the ball into him and he's taking a touch, now that touch triggers a decision. So like this part, now the distance is greater. She's now 10 yards away. Can she affect that distance or not? And she gets caught going a little early here and leaning away. Zach's already kicking it. The distance is wrong. She's leaning back. Her hands are leaning back.
And see, that's exactly what I was talking about. It's that understanding of when to use it and when not to.
Yeah.
Had she come, she knows. And now, had she stood Zach up, or maybe gone hands first into the ball, maybe there's a save. But still trying to force that save, it's a teaching moment. Absolutely.
But I also think with that one, I'm quite happy with the technical decision that she's gone splits. It's more the execution of it, where her shoulders have gone backwards, her hands have gone backwards, because I feel like she's close enough that she can affect at the point that the ball's kicked.
And you can see how she ends up backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that negative shape right there, which opens up that gap for him to be able to play the ball through.
Yeah, and this is a work in progress with Kaylee, and like homing down that technique, like the timing, the technical execution, the decision. So then, sorry, I see the next picture that you've put up here is when Britt and Erin had finished with the rondo. They came back over the rest of the team, and then we just added my final progression in this exercise that I was doing, which was where the two goalkeepers defending the goal form a screen for the shot to come through. So it adds a little more of a challenge to the handling component of the goalkeeper in between the poles. And then we get into it. And the one change that I made here was that when a shot was going to happen, the two people that were bouncing the ball backwards and forward, it had to be a 2-touch finish. So the touch would trigger the decision, whereas before it could be a 1-touch finish. And I think I actually preferred it with the 2-touch because now the goalkeepers can decide, can they affect that distance? Can they not? Sometimes with the 1-touch finish, it's more of just a scampering save.
I love
Nice.
that. I love that, and I love that adjustment, and I love how that's not, for lack of a better term, for people listening out there, especially on the audio who aren't seeing it from a visual standpoint. That's not a pivoting. That is a progression of, we go from, okay, this is the reason, the why on the 1-touch. Now I'm seeing how that's being executed. I'm seeing how those actions are being successful or not successful. Now I'm going to add this other wrinkle to it. So now you're layering on top as opposed to changing it up. I think that's important for people to hear.
And I think sometimes it's easy for like a young coach or somebody to see a session and be like, that's awesome, I'm going to go throw that into with my group. But there's other sessions in days, weeks before that have built into that session. So like I've gone pretty early into a decision component of the exercise there, but there's weeks and training sessions that will have been a technical component about it, especially for Kaylee, where it's a new technique. So I think it's important to I don't know, like manipulate that session in what would work best for your goalkeepers.
Yeah. Now we're getting into a crossing activity right here. So was this the same day, Lloyd, or is this a different day?
This is a completely different day.
Okay.
So this is us actually prepping to play Gotham. They have some good aerial threats. They have Carly Lloyd who will shoot from distance. So I wanted to incorporate crossing and shooting from distance. And I think what is important is that I think is finding that balance between match preparation and getting the topics that you want in, because a part of this, like Ash wanted to bring the tone down a little bit. So you'll see in the top goal, that's Ash and Erin working, and they wanted to work with an underarm toss to start their first phase. Whereas Britt and Kaylee at the bottom, they're dealing with actual crosses right off the bat. Because what I wanted to do was it to be a cross, the session be offset a little bit, take a cross, that ball gets zinged out to the angle, and then the goalkeeper readjusts from that second pass. So you'll see Kaylee throw me the ball there. If that was in what I wanted to do, it would have been Kaylee catches that cross, throws it out to me, Ash is offset, and she would then adjust on my touch. But Ash and Erin wanted to almost take the session, the tone of the session down a little bit to get them feeling good. I think this is 2 days. This is match day -2. And I think, again, something that I've learned more is, like, I have to trust my goalkeepers that they understand their body better than I understand them. And that if they need, like, less is more sometimes. So them going and taking 50 crosses or seeing shots from distance all over the place isn't maybe what they need, either mentally or physically in that moment. So Ash and Erin in this moment just wanted to feel good, get their feet moving, and just pluck some underarm crosses. Whereas Britt and Kaylee, the young gazelles, were just like, we want to get straight into it. We're ready to see it all, bells and whistles. And it's a conversation that I've had with other goalkeeper coaches in the league. It's like managing. I have Ash and I have Erin, who are both mid to late 30s, and then I have Britt and Kaylee, who are early 20s. Like, other goalkeeper coaches in the league have 3 goalkeepers that are low 20s, mid 20s, so they can go crazy functional and have all this stuff going on. Whereas for me, I gotta try and find my moments to get that craziness in.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like the way that Ash and Erin have performed in the games that they've played, like we've been really happy with how they've played. So I think our recipe has worked for us, I guess, this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think and Suska, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add right there, but like I was just kind of just thinking about the fact is like when we were talking about, and I think this might have been something that Kaylee had brought up with me yesterday. Was
Is this
talking
your
about
own little goalkeeping area? Just for you guys?
No, we have
so
it's
jealous.
massive.
I would be
No,
so jealous. I'm just kidding.
So
I
what
mean,
we
look,
used
we
to
have great facilities at UCLA, but I was like, does he have his own goalkeeping field? That would be awesome.
No, I'm not that fortunate. We have 2 fields back to back, and actually that area behind that goal where that red rebounder is used to be the goalkeeping area, but it's a bit weedy at the moment.
All right,
so-
never mind. I'm not upset now.
So yeah, unfortunately I don't have a 40-yard space that's my little area, but that would be. I'll have to put that request in with our new ownership group.
I was
Should
going to say,
always
wow,
have one.
Ash has a lot. Ash and Lloyd both have a lot of power at Orlando Pride as captain and goalkeeper coach.
So much pull. Yeah, so much pull.
Oh my gosh. So this is the next progression right here from here, right?
Yeah. So again, it's just showing the differences between the two. So like again, Ash is still doing tosses, and she's working on low balls here with Erin, whereas Brett and Kaylee were striking balls off the floor into bubbles. So again, it's just like, being flexible within your session, that I might want to progress it at some speed and other goalkeepers will want to progress it at a different speed. And as long as they're performing at the weekend, like that's all that really matters.
I mean, I think you just brought up a really good point, Saskia. I'd never thought about this before, but this is so invaluable to, or valuable to. I don't know what the word is invaluable or valuable, whichever one it is. It's important for young coaches out there, because I think one of the problems, especially at the youth level, Saskia, is that you get a hodgepodge of goalkeepers that all kind of need something different, or all on, or one's got a game tomorrow. The other one doesn't have a game for a week. One just came from high school training. The other one, hasn't trained in 3 days. And everyone is kind of on a same different page. And I love Lloyd. What Lloyd's showing here, at least, and I would love to hear from you, Saskia, is that you can still make the session functional for everybody, just despite what everyone's needs are that are different.
Yeah, and especially during the season, you have to remember, your goalkeepers that don't play in the games. Obviously, usually we don't sub goalkeepers as much as we would like, or I would have liked when I was playing. But I think that whenever I train the keepers with right now, like there's different. It is a mix. Like I have to focus on Lauren, I have to focus on Hannah and stuff like that. And then when we go into whether it's scenarios with the team and they're doing stuff, then I have another session that's set up for the keepers that aren't in the 11v11 and everything like that. So I can keep training them on our low load, high load days after a game. Certain goalkeepers are doing certain things. Certain goalkeepers are doing other things. I mean, it's not that crazy. It sounds crazier than it is, but it is possible to do it all, at different, Ash was working on tosses still while the other ones were striking balls and working on, so it varies. And there'll be days after practices that Lauren didn't do much in a game, and after games, and Lauren didn't do much in a game and she wants to come out and do stuff, and that I still have to dumb that down a little bit. I'm still like, yeah, you're not going as hard as the other goalkeepers are. So we're going to work on this within this session that I've created.
And I want a lot of young coaches out there who are hearing this right now. It's all within context too. We're talking about high level right here. If you're working with U9s and U10s, and tell me if you guys feel I'm wrong or whatever, and a U10 comes up to you and goes like, yeah, I don't really feel like handling crosses like that, or probably not at 9 or 10 through balls like that right now. I'd prefer that they would be underhand tossed. That's probably a little bit of a different story. I mean, I don't know how autonomous you want your goalkeepers at that age.
10. Shut up, kid.
Personality. Bring it on.
I mean, seriously though, like a 10-year-old telling you what he wants to do that day.
Look, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate right here, because we're very progressive, woke goalkeeper coaches here. I just don't know how how far that goes.
I'm just kidding.
I'll
There's a difference between it, but you also have to realize whether or not they're saying that, let's say hypothetically, I've never had that happen, but hypothetically, are they saying that because they're not handling it properly? Or are you not realizing that as a coach? So they're asking you to kind of dumb it down and go over the basics again and get their footwork correct. Like if a 10-year-old has to tell you that, then you have a problem as a coach. Sorry.
No,
it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny actually. Last week, we were doing a session that had multiple outcomes with the youth club that I work for, and the shot comes in and it goes over the kid and he kind of jumps up for it, and I was basically saying like you've got to leave your feet, you've got to dive up, you've got to completely leave your feet, go all out, just like you're making a top hand save, tip that thing over the bar, and he kind of gave me this look, and I'm like, do you not agree? And he went, no, not really. I went, okay, jump out, and then fat me goes in goal and like dives up without a ball, just diving up because I don't want to miss the ball. But I'm like, you can't tell me that I've jumped at the same height as I would if I'd have just like, done a little hop. And that was kind of my way of proving my point to the young lad.
I like it. Yeah, I like that you didn't add the ball. Keep the aura going.
Risk low.
Keep the aura going.
Yeah, that's a good note for young coaches out there. There's nothing worse than when you hop into to do a demo and you go, well, you guys get the point. This is how it would go.
It goes as far. It goes as deep as this. I had to. I served like a half volley, like to show something like across the field. No, I'm like walking off it, and I was like, God, this is how you hit the ball. And I like hit it on a dime, right? Like first time it was like this, and I turned around and like our injured players, everybody sitting there, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to demo that again.
One and done.
That is how you do it. That is what I'm talking about. And
yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Walk away.
Yeah.
That's it. You don't keep doing it.
No.
I got a question for both you guys right here, and we'll start with Lloyd and then Saskia, you add on right there. But is there any specific language that you would avoid in your session that's going to make your session less effective or less functional, quote unquote?
It's a really interesting question because I think there's times within a session that emotion takes over. Either frustration or like you just think they've made this amazing save and you're blowing all the bells and whistles because great save, whatever. But like I think sometimes it's again taking that step back and be like, all right, we'll watch that back in training. Like we'll watch that back in video and see if that was as good a save or as bad a mistake as possible. But I also think like coaching a lot of the time is about pressing the right buttons at the right moment with the individuals that you're working with, especially as a goalkeeper coach. So like actually the crossing session that you were showing, there was a moment in that session where I kind of chewed Britt out a little bit, which I don't do very often, because she kept making the same mistake. And I was, hey Britt, you got to be more patient or whatever. I can't even remember what the coaching point was. And she kind of responds with, I know. And then the same thing happened again. Yeah, I know. And I was like, yeah, but you've done it 4 times now. So you don't know. So if you know, do it right. And if not, fix it. And thankfully for the both of us, for the rest of the session, she didn't make that same mistake again. So I felt like maybe that reaction got the response that I wanted, but there might be a time where I have an outburst like that, which is a little out of character, and it doesn't get the response that I want. And then I've got to reflect. I've got to be like, well, why did I lose it? Like, have I just not had enough sleep the night before, or was my milk off when I put milk in my cereal? Like, what was it? Like, because I think it is difficult to take the emotion away from the moment because, we're emotional people. Like, we're passionate about what we do. Like, we're passionate about the development of that individual or that group of goalkeepers or that group of players. So I think it is difficult at times to take a deep breath before you go in, especially if they're having a nightmare or they're playing really well or whatever in training. I think it is reflecting on your own actions within that session is really important, as well as the goalkeeper's actions.
I have a question for you, Lloyd, before Saskia, for 1 second, if you don't mind. Would that be the response that you would give to any goalkeeper in that scenario, or is it just that you knew Britt could handle that in that moment?
Well, if I said that to Ash, she'd come and knock me out. She'd like uppercut me. So it's understanding the individual in that moment. Like, if I have an outburst with Ash, she's going to outburst back at me. It's going to be like this huge mess, and then we're both going to be angry and annoyed, and nobody's got better or nobody's improved. Like either me as a coach or her as a player. But that's from working with her that I've learned that. Like I'm sure there was times in the past where I've tried to call her out on stuff, and she's just switched off because she doesn't want to deal with the fat, grey hair English guy calling her out in those moments. So I think it definitely is understanding and growing through those moments. Like Erin is like, will always ask questions throughout the session, which will allow me to give my feedback to her in those moments. Like there's no point in me fine tuning every mistake because she'll often come up to me in a water break and be like, am I getting my inside foot in? Am I doing this? I feel like my shoulders are doing this, blah, blah, blah. And that will open to a dialogue. Whereas Britt and Kaylee, I'm probably a little more abrasive with. Now, that might be because they're younger goalkeepers and I'm trying to influence my style on them a little more. Or is it that just Ash and Erin are a little more rounded? So yeah, it is finding that balance. Like it's difficult, and I think it is an art, and I think it is like, you know, people always say it's more than just coaching. You're a psychologist. You gotta understand personalities. You gotta understand what gets the best out of those individuals, and I think that's part of growing and part of having open dialect with your goalkeepers about, does this work for you? Because it's not working for me, so let's figure this out, or whatever reason. And sometimes that's in a public setting, and sometimes that's over a coffee. And at the end of the day, like again, I said it before, it's not about me as the coach. Like, nothing is about me. Like, it's not me that's got to go out and pull out a save in the 90th minute. It's not me that's got to come out for a breakaway. It's them. So whatever mindset I can put them in to best them for the weekend is the priority.
Yeah. Saskia, anything you want to add to that?
No, I just agree with everything he said. I mean, there's not much more to add. The truth, I think for me, it is a calculated time. It's a calculated time when if I'm firm or emotional, or it's a repetitive mistake, and it's also the individual goalkeeper. If I talk to Lauren one way, I can't talk to Kelly the same way, depending on where they are in their. I know this sounds crazy, but depending on where they are in their life and what's going on with their boyfriend or their girlfriend or whatever. And if I turn around and say, "Why do you keep making the same mistake?" I could say that in a certain situation aggressively to one goalkeeper. If I did that to the other goalkeeper, I would lose her for the week. Like, you know, and that's a fact. So it's very rare that I get angry or go on my emotions. Very, very, very rare. But I will elevate my tone at times, but it's definitely calculated. And it has to be. And that is, we are human beings, and there's a lot more going on in your life than just soccer, and that has to be taken into consideration. And I don't want to lose you mentally for a week because I scolded you. So
yeah. Well, speaking of us being human beings and a lot more going on than just soccer.
You're gonna get yelled at for dinner.
I know. Lloyd's got to get to this. Lloyd's got to get to this dinner.
I've just had to open the door because my wife is like, I need to get my makeup. I need to iron my dress. I kind of messed up and forgot that we were going to go get dinner tonight, and then scheduled to do this with you guys. So it's all good. We've still got plenty of time as she walks out holding the dress, hairdryer, makeup, toddler hanging from her ankle, dog barking at her. Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good.
Well, Lloyd, you've obviously been able to handle this chaos because you've been involved in chaotic environments before, like those youth clubs. So you know what it's all about. And you're obviously
stay out of her way. Don't ever look at your watch and say, "Hey, what time's the reservation? We're gonna be late."
Exactly. We've got loads of time, guys.
We
can talk goalkeeping all night.
I have some player meetings I have to get on. But
well, Lloyd, it's always fun, man. I mean, we're always gonna have you back, and thank you always for sharing your session designs. I mean, it's so fun because every time you come on, you're like, oh, is this enough stuff? And I'm like, I don't even think we can get to all of this.
Mike, I do think with that crossing session that I sent you, there's a moment on the second, like later on in the session. I know you showed the early parts of the session, but that shows understanding the functionality of the session. Like, there's a moment where I'm talking to Britt about where I'm crossing it from. I don't know if you know that clip that I'm talking about.
I don't. I mean, if Saskia's got a second, should we play it? Like, what are your thoughts? Do we need to, or what do you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Which clip is it? I've got like 1 through 8.
I think it's probably one of the last clips.
Okay. So I'll go.
I would imagine it's the 8th clip.
Okay. Great. All right. All right. So here it is right here.
Yeah. So basically it became super functional. And if you pause it now, you can see me just kicking the ball on the right of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially what's happened is I've delivered a cross from this lower pocket in towards the air mannequins. It's been punched clear by Kaylee, and now I'm delivering across to Britt. But that's opened up for a conversation with Britt about her positioning dependent on where I've struck the ball from. So this is me and her having that conversation now, where we're talking about my body shape, reading off my touch, and adjusting her positioning, because I'm not in a shooting position, I'm in a crossing position. And then we carried on the session. It was a 10-second conversation, but I think it's important if you are going to have like lots of things going on. I've got 2 18s, 6 mannequins, 2 servers, people running in, is understanding like what pictures I could see. Like you'll see it here, the ball bouncing towards me, and then she's way too close to her near post, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So it's finding those moments to coach that doesn't interrupt the flow of the session too much, because you want it to have flow. You want decisions to consistently happen, but finding those right moments to pick and pause and question the decision.
Yeah.
Oh, I like this. I'm taking little snapshots.
Susk, I'll send you all the stuff.
I know. Go ahead. I steal all Lloyd's stuff. So.
I'm sure Lloyd can send you a whole Google Drive full of stuff.
Sharing is caring.
I love it. Hey, I'm humble enough. I'll steal your stuff every day.
I am always open to sharing.
Lloyd, what you don't realize is the reason that Lauren did so well and then ended up on the Herman Trophy watch list this year is because Saskia just took all of your sessions. She just
Whoa!
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, don't get crazy. I like to think I had something to do with it. Jesus.
Well, you were on Pac-12 staff of the year, so I think you had a little bit something to do with it.
But it's true. I do steal your stuff.
It's all good. I've stole many people's stuff, so it's all good.
Lloyd, we'll start. We'll let you get going right here and get to dinner. If people want to connect with you on social media, where's the best place?
Oh, whatever. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I think I'm the only Lloyd Yaxley out there, so I mean, chuck it in there, you'll find me. I'm pretty easy to be found, I guess.
Yeah, that is that's definitely true. And obviously, guys, if you want to know more about what's going on with this undefeated currently UCLA women's soccer program and their fantastic goalkeepers based on the session design of Saskia Weber, you can reach out to her at Saskia
Smartass.
at Saskia_Weber on all social media platforms. If you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, contact at inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com or at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. A shout out to people like Aaron McLeod and Kaylee Collins who send us wonderful topic suggestions like this and happen to have their goalkeeper coach on the next day. So it works out perfectly like that. That's all the time on Inside the 18, guys. And we are out. Later, guys.